Hi, Bernadette.
Oh,
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Jean.
Where is everybody calling from?
I'm the program director from Cranleaf in Philadelphia.
You are. You're our neighbor.
Where are you at,
Oh,
Jean?
I'm at Kirkridge. I should actually change my little name here and I'll put Kirkridge in. Yeah, I'm about an hour and 45 minutes from you, maybe.
Yes. I'm familiar in terms of hearing about Kirkridge. I've not been there.
Well, you need to come up. We'd love to have you.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've come down to Cranleaf I've probably come down 3 times now.
Okay. I just began.
Not that I don't like coming, I do.
Oh, we'd love to have you. It's always great to have visitors, and it's such a pretty spot. I'm relatively new. I just started a couple of months ago.
Okay.
I spoke on the phone with Mary Trainer this morning, and she said that you'd be coming, Bernadette, and that maybe Mary Ann Smith would be coming too. Do you know?
I know she was going to talk to Mary Ann. She wasn't in the office today, so I'm
Got it.
not sure if she was able to join.
Well, welcome. Glad you're here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello, Sister Jane
Hello.
Marie.
How are you? Hi, Margarita. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
Jean, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are things in Western Pennsylvania? I hear they're getting a little bit dicey.
Well, on our end of the state, we're okay.
Oh, good.
But we've been, we're still in the good zone.
Oh, there was an article in the New York Times about Pittsburgh and Western Pennsylvania yesterday.
Allegheny County is not good, but we're in county. But yeah, Allegheny.
Which county? Where are you?
Lawrence. We're Lawrence.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Tracy Jelt Sullivan at Pendle Hill. I'm joining you for the first time. I'm only going to be here a time or two because I'm actually an interim and I leave at the end of August. But Kitty Effortchafe had mentioned this group, and I was like, I really think this is a good time to be connected with your peers. So here I am. Perhaps my successor will be joining you later.
Awesome.
Great.
Nice to have you, Tracy.
Thank you.
You're very close to Cranleaf.
Very close to?
You're very close to Bernadette, and you're about 2 hours from us. So you're very close to Cranleaf. Yeah, I'm glad you joined us.
Well, and you're more than welcome to come back. You don't ever have to leave us. You could still get on the Zoom link.
Thank you.
I see several other new faces here that I just want to welcome individually. Bill Hobbs, I see you there from Jesuit Retreat Center. I put your email in a database recently. Hello.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, glad to see you.
Glad to be here.
Tom Powell as well. Is this your first time here, Tom?
Yes, sir, it is. And I'm at Caroline Furnace Lutheran Camp and Retreat Center in Shenandoah Valley, Virginia. Little town called Fort Valley, 25-mile long valley in the middle of the Massanutten Mountains.
Wonderful. I just want to live in that description. Thank you. There was a couple. Oh, Lawrence J. from Rolling Ridge.
Yes, hi.
Hello.
So I'm at Rolling Ridge Retreat and Conference Center. We're located in North Andover, Massachusetts. Just as beautiful as Tom's place, but a little different. We're actually by Lake Kachikawick, and so we're 39 acres right along the Lake Kachikawick in North Andover, which is just about 15 minutes from the New Hampshire border.
Yes. Nice. Beautiful. Thank you. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. There may
We
be
can
other
live-
people here who are new.
We could live in that job and that description as well there, Ben.
I know it's 39 acres by a lake. I can't pronounce the lake name, but I want to be there.
I've only been here 3.5 years, and that was my biggest concern, how to pronounce Kachikowik correctly. And I picked it up. And so I'm thankful for that. It means that I'm in the right place.
Kachikowik.
Kachikowik, yep.
Yeah, good.
And I think we have Christina who's new. Do you want to say hi, Christina?
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Christina Strain, and I'm the administrator at the Franciscan Center in Tampa, Florida. And since
nice.
everyone is giving a description of the Franciscan Center, was founded by the Franciscan Sisters of Allegheny from Allegheny, New York. We sit on 8 acres of property right on the Hillsborough River, and we're just less than 10 minutes away from the Tampa International Airport. We are now celebrating our 50th year anniversary. So I'm glad that I was able to attend this. Maureen Connors, which I think some of you may know, she has sat in for me the last 2 meetings I think that you had. So I'm grateful to be here today. Thank you.
Now, Christina, are you from Florida?
Well, I've been living here now about 29 years. I'm originally from New York City. So, yeah.
Right. I lived in Florida for a little bit, and it's hard to find people who actually were born in Florida because they all come
Matter
from
of fact,
so
my
many different-
husband, he's a native Champaign.
Oh.
So there are some around, yes.
Great.
I wanted to provide a welcome and get people in the room, and it looks like we've kind of settled here. And then I also wanted to provide a few announcements before we got started. Just so you know, these calls are happening every 2 weeks now at the same time on Tuesdays. And I think Justine might have news about next week's call, but we'll talk about that in a moment. I have a few link heavy announcements that I'll put in the chat. So hopefully you can tap into those if it's something that interests you, but I hate to throw all this information on you at once. So I will talk through it slowly. Or yeah, Justine, do you want to put them one by one? Thank you. Okay. So the first one is about our RCC and resilience team. We have a few people that have started a conversation about what does resilience look like for retreat centers as we go through this time of crisis together. How do we prepare for the next time of crisis, and how do we become part of larger systems that make it possible for us to weather storms more fluidly? And so that conversation obviously brings in a wealth of other topics. It's a very complex conversation, but there are some small resources that have come out of it, and I've put those on our website. So there's a page on our website now called the RCC and Resilience page, and the link is in the chat. So there's some trainings coming up that you can sign up for, things like that. Another opportunity for folks is a Healing Circles training, a training for facilitators who want to host Healing Circles. We've been trying to get this lined up for a few months, and we finally have got some dates set. I still don't have registration forms ready to go up, but the dates are in September, so I wanted to give those to you so you can put them in your calendar if you're interested and hold that time. And then I'll be reaching out again when I have the registration forms ready and we can get everything going. Those are going to be free to all of our RCC participants, and it would be helpful to know the level of interest as we go into this. So if this is kind of tickling you, you go to the website, it looks like something you'd be interested in, maybe shoot me an email and just let me know so I can tell our presenters. I think they're trying to keep a very specific ratio of how many people to presenters so that it can be an intimate experience for folks. And I think it's amazing for our RCC retreat center leaders to learn this skill. Jean recently took the training. I'm starting the training on Thursday. So I'm excited to see what it's about and learn more. Wanted to share that with you. Kind of related to what we're talking about on this call, how places are pivoting. I have a program that's being held online that Tatamagouche in Nova Scotia, a retreat center in Nova Scotia, is hosting called Erasure. That looks really interesting. It's an online poetry / anti-racism workshop. led by local activists and advocates. And it's a very interesting approach to doing this work. So I've got a couple links there for learning about that. Actually, the first one is today, and I don't know based on time zone if it's already started or if it starts in an hour or two, but sometime this afternoon that training starts, or that workshop starts. And I thought, even if you don't attend and you don't have time, it'd be interesting to peek at it and see what folks are doing. It's a really interesting idea. Justine, do we have an idea of what our topic is for 2 weeks from now, or are we holding off? We do.
In 2 weeks from now, we plan on talking about diversifying revenue, which was a topic one of the participants from our last community call brought up. And so we're just working on the logistics of that. But in 2 weeks' time, hopefully we'll be able to talk again about pivoting and what that means to open and expand how we are receiving revenue at this time.
Awesome. So those are my announcements. I'm hoping that you can reference the chat as you have time, and that we can actually have a conversation and not spend too much time on that, but I wanted to make that available. Margarita and Jean are going to be facilitating this call as we talk about abundance and creative pivoting, so I'm going to hand it over to them.
Thanks, Ben. Hi, everybody. For those of you I do not know, my name is Margarita Solis-Deal. I'm the director of the Dominican Center here in Grand Rapids, with beautiful green trees, green space all around. I'm trying to be as eloquent and attractive as these other descriptions went earlier. But we've just had amazing weather, 80 some degrees weather with no humidity, and it's just been absolutely gorgeous. So I'm resting in Michigan weather right now, and it's beautiful. My other hat I wear is I help with the Retreat Center collaboration on the core team, and to really support visioning for how we keep retreat centers together, and then especially during this time, support them as we go through this really uncertain days as well as hopeful days. So it's always a constant tension. So today we're going to talk about abundance. I don't know, Jean, do you want to introduce yourself? And then maybe we can invite others, just a quick introduction, since we have a group that we can do that with. Oh, we can't hear you, Jean.
Sorry, I went the wrong direction. My name's Jean Richardson, and I serve as the director at Kirkridge Retreat and Study Center in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. And I've been here for about, well, I'm in my 15th year plus, a long time. And, you know, it's a small little center, so it's easy to slip into scarcity, so, which is my Achilles heel. So I'm really happy to be talking about abundance in really these challenging times. And grateful to see all of you on this line. And we're here to really support one another and care about each other and give each other ideas. So we're not a solo act. We are a group of wonderful retreat centers all across North America.
Thanks, Jean. Well, we have quite a bit of a good things planned today, but before we get started, since we have a good sized group here that I think we could take time to do this, I want you to think about, as we really enter a time of abundance, when we look at abundance, especially during times like these, when, as Jean says, it could be really easy for us to think in scarcity, what we don't have, the resources that we need and we just don't have. And I think pivoting and moving forward really takes the sense of looking at abundance and what is there for us to kind of shift. So I'd like you to think of a word that expresses a sense of hope. Just one word, because we know how our retreat people just love to share about their spaces. We want you to think about just one word, and then we're going to go around and just tell us your name and where you're from, and that one word, okay? Because we've got a lot to cover today. But we'd like to know names and where you're from, at least where your center is from. I think it's really important to do that. So I'm going to go around what the Zoom community looks like to me today. And we heard from Jean. Ben, did you say where you are from?
I did not. I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm in West Michigan, about an hour from Lake Michigan, where I've been swimming the past few weeks.
Thank you, Ben. And Justine?
Hi, everyone. My name is Justine Johnson. I'm the Associate Director at Kirkridge Retreat and Study Center, located in the Pocono Mountains. And can I say my word, which would be community?
Thank you, Justine. Ben, did you say your word?
I don't have a word.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Anne.
I'm Ann Dillon. I am at the Jesuit Retreat House Center in Bloomfield Hills, suburb of Detroit. And I think my word right now is green.
Great, thank you. Bernadette?
I'm Bernadette Rudolph. I'm the program director at Cranaleith Spiritual Center in North Philly, Pennsylvania. My word for right now is possibilities.
Thank you. Emily?
I'm Emily Durkee. I'm with Dominican Center in Grand Rapids as well. And my word for today is purpose.
Great. Peter?
Hi, I'm the Executive Director of the Dharmakaya Center for Wellbeing in Cragsmore, New York, about 2 hours north of the city. And my word is clarity.
Nice. Bill?
I'm Bill Hobbs. I'm the Associate Director at the Jesuit Retreat Center in Parma, Ohio, just on the southern outskirts of Cleveland. And my word is seeking.
Thank you. Tracy?
I'm Tracy Jelt Sullivan. I'm the interim executive director at Pendle Hill in suburban Philadelphia. And my word is connection.
Nice. Jane Marie?
I'm Jane Marie Kudlatz. I'm the president of Villa Maria Education Spirituality Center in Villa Maria, PA. And my word is beauty.
Nice. Tom?
Hi, I'm Tom from Fort Valley, Virginia at the Carolina Furnace Lutheran Camp and Retreat Center, and my word is collaboration.
Nice. Naomi?
I'm Naomi Wanger, program coordinator at the Hermitage in Three Rivers, Michigan, and my word is zucchini.
I knew you were going to come up with something. Marianne?
Marianne Trainer, executive, excuse me, interim executive director for Cranaleith Spiritual Center, and my word is purposeful.
Nice, thank you. Lawrence?
So my name is Lawrence J. I'm the director at Rolling Ridge Retreat and Conference Center. We're about 40 minutes north of Boston and just 15 minutes from New Hampshire. And my word today is growing.
Nice. Christina?
Hi, I'm Christina Strain from the Franciscan Center in Tampa, Florida. I'm the administrator, and my word today is peace.
Thank you. Maureen?
I'm also on the Spirituality Program Committee at the Franciscan Center in Tampa, and my word is creativity.
Nice. Kitty?
My name is Kitty Ufford Chase. I'm co-director at Stony Point Center. We're about 30 miles north of New York City in the Hudson River Valley. And my word is awakening.
Nice. Patricia?
I'll try to get this in fast. I'm at a job site right now and there are saws going on constantly. I'm in California, outside of San Francisco, and I'm on a board that represents the Waller Retreat Center in the Haight-Ashbury area of San Francisco, as well as property in Aptos, right on the beach, and one in the Sierra foothills. And I'm finding this group fascinating, so that's my word today, fascinating.
Great, thank you. It's good to see board members come and join us, so thank you for that. Sue?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Sue DeFerrari. I'm the executive director at Morningstar Renewal Center in Miami, Florida. And my word for today is breath.
Nice, thank you. Lori?
Hello, I'm Lori Dressel. I am at LaSalle Manor Retreat Center outside of Chicago in Plano, Illinois. And my word for this call is allow.
Thank you, Lori. Yolanda.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yolanda Ramirez. I am the program specialist at Dominican Center here in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
And what's your word?
My word for today, because it started off like this morning, I'm keeping it. It's vision.
Sally.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sally here from Kirkridge Retreat Center Board Chair Emerita. And my word, I'm cheating a little bit, is new story.
Nice. My word for today, I love Naomi's word. So my word for today is cilantro, but it's also hope. That is my word as well. So Ben and Jean, I don't know if you had a chance. I just want to give you a chance if you had a word for today. If not, that's okay.
I always think about network weaving when I get in a situation like this, that I'm helping to pull these threads together.
Great, thank you, Ben. Jean?
My word would be imagination when I see all these folks on the screen.
Great. So imagine, as using Jean's word, if all this energy, right, if we breathe in these words of hope, then perhaps we look into and lean into hope for abundance to arise. And so what I like to do is I'm going to put my Dominican Center hat on. And I'd like to share with you a little bit of what we've been doing, just kind of give you insight to how we have stayed in abundance versus scarcity, and how we have pivoted versus waiting. And so, Ben, I don't know if you could first start with a little bit of a reflection to start us with. What I'd like you to do as we start is really kind of lean into this beautiful reflection, and how does it inform you about staying in abundance? We may talk about this a little bit, but I just wanted to provide this for you. So I'll read it. There is no power greater than a community discovering what it cares about. Ask what is possible, not what's wrong. Keep asking. Notice what you care about. Assume that many others share your dreams. Be brave enough to start a conversation that matters. Talk to people you know. Talk to people you don't know. Talk to people you never talk to. Be intrigued by the differences you hear. Expect to be surprised. Treasure curiosity more than certainty. Invite in everybody who cares to work on what's possible. Acknowledge that everyone is an expert about something. And know that creative solutions come from new connections. Remember, you don't fear people whose story you know. Real listening always brings people closer together. Trust that meaningful conversations can change the world. Rely on human goodness and stay together. So in this beautiful invitation to stay in connection with each other was really underlying inspiration, I think, for this retreat center collaboration. As Ben was putting up program offerings and trainings and things like that on chat, he and Justine, I would also think an aha moment came to me that when you come to retreat center collaborations, bring your ideas of programs that you would like to invite others to. So if you would like to invite somebody to a program offering you have, you can use these retreat center collaboration times to put it in the chat and let people know. While we may not take time to be able to announce everybody's offerings, you certainly can do that through chat, and that's an abundance. you could go ahead and inform everybody else of what's going on in your center. So let's talk a little bit about Dominican Center, just really quickly. I'm just offering this as an example so that it inspires conversation. So let's move on to the next slide. So one of the things that we've done, like many retreat centers, is we pivoted, excuse me, we pivoted online. And what we have done, we went into lockdown. It sounds so awkward. We went into isolation. That sounds awkward. We went into a different space. How's that? So we went into a different space that we call Dominican Center now. And we do have a portal in which the community can still come into our space. And that's an online portal. We do it only once a week on Monday mornings at 10:30. Recognizing when we first started, we knew that more people would stay connected to us just because everybody was in a similar situation. But now that people are going back to work, then there's still a good following for us as well through this. So what we've decided to do, Dominican Center is a ministry of the Dominican Sisters Grand Rapids. So we are founded in a Catholic tradition, yet our programs are very open to all communities. And so what we have done is that we have invited people to join us as a staff and as those dedicated to Dominican Center. Our mantra has been during these times is to stay in the light. You know, don't let the darkness of what's going around us kick you off. Just stay centered in the light and see what finds you there. And so we kept that mantra, and that's the mantra we use. So every Monday, we're inviting the community to start their week with us. And so it's a portal in. We've had good attendance for us anyway. We're not looking to scale to 1,000 people. We have anywhere from 60 to 90 people that show up on these sessions with us. And then we have this core group that follows us every single morning. And it's just beautiful to see how this community is gathering. And then it's a donation base. It's not, you know, we don't make it difficult. We don't put barriers in place. People want people to walk in our door, because when Dominican Center was in full operation, coming through the door was easy. Open the door and come on in and find welcome. So that's how we want to do it. The programs are contemplative and they're relevant. So we've had conversations about healing in this pandemic world. We had really wonderful conversations about the destruction of racism and how do we do our work in dismantling racism. So we're listening to the community and we're designing programs around that. We are not offering programs that are not talking to the community. And we don't have a program that's off in a different space than where the community is. And so we have found people want to talk, they want to have conversation, and they want to have reflection. And so that's what we're offering. We're considering these programs taste and see programs because we have a vision for more in-depth programming at Dominican Center. So we're just offering this as taste and see if you like it, and it tests us to see if the participants will come. And so we can offer anything from a contemplative spiritual practice to looking at more of a justice issue to looking at more, we're gonna have, for example, every single year at Dominican Center, we had a blood drive. Well, the organization we work with in town called us out of desperation that they need blood. And so one of the ways, well, we can't have a location space because we're not going into our space anytime soon. But I said, come into our Monday gathering and we'll create a contemplative program about how do we respond to a community in need right now, and then invite the people who are coming in to say, you know, how do we mobilize that community to say, and this is where you can donate blood. But first, we're going to talk about the importance of life and in how we can actually take some action right now, even in isolation. So we're doing that next Monday, and we're really excited about offering that, even though we can't have the blood drive at Dominican Center. I could have easily, if I was looking at scarcity, I could have easily received that call and say, nope, we can't do this program. We don't have a building. But then as we switch about, well, why don't you come and reach 90 people and invite, and maybe you'll get 10 people to donate. And that's 10 more that will save lives than what they've had before. Okay, Ben. So this is just let you know how we stayed relevant. So one of our programs on Memorial Day, we showed up on Memorial Day. We decided not to take a day off. And in memory of those men and women in service, we also recognize those men and women in service that are serving our communities in a different way. And we tied the relevancy together. And what a beautiful conversation that was. Expressing grief as well as expressing hope and staying in the light. And the other thing that we've done, we'll go on to the next slide. We've been very supported by the Dominican Sisters of Grand Rapids. All our staff have stayed together. I have a very small group of people, but we have, as soon as the sisters said we are closing the doors, and that we will continue to support the staff for the next couple months, I really felt as a director a responsibility to that. And so I called the staff together and told them that we're meeting every day. And so we've met every day on Zoom for an hour. And that in the beginning that turned into, that was about fear, that was about what's happening to our world. And now it's turned into conversations about hope, about visioning, about staying in the light of our ideas, and then starting to work it and shifting our old paradigms. I went into COVID with, I think it was 5 receptionists, because we're open from 7 days a week, early in the morning until late at night. And so it was not program people and people who had ideas about virtual platforms. These were receptionists who were hired to answer the phone, to really do administrative tasks. And so I could have said that, well, you know, what do we do now? But what we did was lean into our gifts, and we brought in, the capacity just grew about different things that they can contribute to keep us moving forward. So every day we came up with a different theme of how we stayed into our own capacity as well as our own abundance. So I offer you this. You can bring down the slide, Ben. But I offer you this as ideas of how we have pivoted and shifted and moved forward. Not all retreat centers have those factors that I just talked about. But all retreat centers have abundance and looking at things from a different lens. So I will stop there. I don't know, Jean, if you wanted to add to that. And then what we like to do is maybe break off in just some small groups just to talk about how are you shifting into some of that abundance. And then we'll bring the group back to kind of share what we discovered in that small space.
Thanks, Margarita. That was really wonderful. And I just want to talk just a little bit about, not so much about what we've done, but what we've learned. I'll tell you a little bit about what we've done and then a little more about what we've learned and invite you into that. So Kirkridge is really small. Right now, we have on staff Justine and myself, and we have enormous help from Sally, who's a former board chair. But as far as paid staff, you're looking at them, and some of our job is working for the RCC. So we are very small. We have a part-time bookkeeper, and Justine's partner helps keep the place running. So that's it. So don't get an imagination that we have a lot of people hanging around here, because we don't. But since May 15th, We've served almost 1,200 people online, and we've had almost 70 programs. And it happened sort of by, we kind of walked into it. One of the things we realized was one of our longtime groups that have come together every year for 30 years, a group of lesbian women, they were now in their 70s and 80s, were lonely. I was getting emails from them saying they really, and so I just decided to pull them together one day. And they all showed up, and they all figured out how to work on Zoom, and realized that hidden in plain view were people of our community that really needed us to reach out to them. And so then Justine and I started another one, and one of our board members offered a writing circle, and then another board member offered to do something on social justice. And anyway, we started rolling all of these out. And what we realized was that some of the barriers we struggled with as an organization, and they were barriers of people not being able to afford to come here anymore, barriers that they were older and they couldn't physically get here anymore, barriers that they used to live here and they loved this place, but now they moved away. We've crossed those barriers, and as our doors were shut by the governor, all those barriers got lifted. It was it was a really kind of ironic situation. And now online, we've had people from Ireland, we've had people from Hawaii, we've had people all across North America, because all we have to do is adjust for the time, right? And then you can click in and you could be as accessible at Kirkridge as if you're in British Columbia or if you're down in Tampa, Florida. So I hold those things up for your imagination. Well, let me first ask if Justine or Sally have anything to add, and then I want to ask you some questions. Sally, Justine?
You don't. I just want to say, affirm really what you said, that in spite of the fact that you and Justine are it, that more than 1,000 people have been to programs since March. And what I'm hearing from them is that we're really sort of their island of sanctuary, their island of safety in this time. And that just feels so amazing.
Justine's giving me a thumbs up, which usually is she has nothing else. She's not going to add anything. Okay, good. Thank you, Sally. One of the other things that I wanted to raise up is that we're reaching a new community that we had reached before, that people are beginning to tell people by word of mouth. And so, and we're doing it all by a gift economy right now. We're not charging for these programs. We're asking people to donate. And so we don't want to make any limitations on people's ability to participate. And actually, I got to tell you, wouldn't you know it, right? The income is actually, it's not what it was as far as having income from room and board, but our donor income, if you compared that line item, we're higher than we were last year at this time. So I've always wanted to build kind of a movement with us as retreat centers. I want to think of us as like on every corner. I want people to think, where do I go Tuesday night? I'm going to go to a retreat center collaboration program. And so, I want to lay out for you, what would it look like, right? If we started putting our programs together in some type of joint calendar where people could come together, and it wouldn't matter if I went to Michigan, or if I went to Tampa, Florida, or if I went to Western Pennsylvania, or if I went out to California to Santa Sabina Center, because each of us brings gifts into this collaboration and we are stronger together. So I want us to think about that abundance and to get out of the abundance of, if I tell you my secret, maybe you'll take my people. There are many people in this world who need us, and we need to get out into this world and offer them the invitation. People need to be supported in these days spiritually. They need to have a sense that there's a community to which they belong, and they need to be challenged. that even from, you know, if they're stuck in their one-bedroom apartment, there's something they can do to make this world a kinder, more gentler, and more loving place to live in. They want to be involved. So I want to lay that invitation out to you, and I wonder what it is that we could do together that we couldn't do alone. And I wonder what we're willing to do now, given we're facing real challenges with racism in our society, given that we're facing real challenges with this virus in our society, given that we're facing real class separation in our society. What is it that retreat centers, and add the big thing, right? People can't join together in their places of worship. So how do we feed people spiritually? Whatever denomination, whatever religious tradition, how do we cross those barriers of religious tradition and invite people in? So I just want to raise all those questions up, and I know together we'll imagine a new way to be. So thanks, Margarita, for that invitation.
You know, just thank you, Jean, for that. It's to reflect on that. Just also, before we get into having more conversation with each other, one of the things that we talk about is that when we think about the retreat centers around us, or people who are doing similar types of programming around us, I usually say those are not our competitors. Our competitors are complacency. Our competitors are perhaps not having the financial resources to sign up for our programs. Our competitors are not wanting to go deep into a spiritual place. Those are our competitors versus, you know, an information center that's just down the road is somebody that we should say that we want you to be just as successful because you're feeding the world. And that's what we need. There's so much feeding our world that we need to do. So I offer that as a shift of thinking of abundance in that way as we look further. We did have, well, that's another story, and we'll talk about that later. So Ben, why don't we do your magic, if you could, and we're going to just get into small groups and share a little bit about how are you in this time working in a place from abundance, and let's learn from each other in that space, and then we'll bring ourselves back to share insights, not to repeat what happened in small groups, but insights that we gained. Okay.
So I've put together 4 small groups with 6 people in each group. And so I'm just going to shoot you off. How long, Margarita, should we spend in these groups, do you think?
I don't know, maybe 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes.
I think 20.
Jean? Yeah. Good. 20 minutes.
20 minutes it is. All right. See you in a little bit.
Ciao. I love this part. Well, I think we're all back, huh, Ben? Or can you tell from where you sit?
I think I sent off 24 and only 20 came back. Where did they go?
It looks like Ben is a pilot, you know, with his earphones, kind of leading us and flying us on our way. Well, I hope that was a generative conversation for all of you, and just kind of letting everybody know everybody else's story. In our group, it's interesting that, you know, it's that saying, right? You know one retreat center, you know one retreat center. In that everybody is very different, yet there is a spirit of connection that somehow threads us together. So out of the inspiration of being together, I just wanted to offer if anybody would like to share some insights that they gained while they had an opportunity for a more of an intimate conversation with each other. And what inspired you? What did you notice? What was surprising? What helped you to maybe move back into your own space again with different lens, perhaps? Not a major different lens, but just even an insight to that, to kind of move in that. If you're willing to share that and speak that to the full group, we would really love to listen. I also want to let you know that I need to be out of this call 10 minutes before it ends. So if I leave, it's not because I don't want to listen to your conversation. And the others are going to close the experience for us. So I offer you to do that.
Just quickly, I want to say that what I noticed was an abundance of enthusiasm. I expected, well, this doesn't work so well, or maybe I didn't expect that, but I thought maybe there would be some more tepid comments, and they weren't. Everyone was so enthusiastic, so I just want to point that out. There's an abundance of enthusiasm in this group.
Thanks, Naomi. Kitty.
Yes, I'm also really impressed about how people have been able to do so much with online, because at least for me, what's always been important is bringing people together in this place, and those two things are the two things we can't do. So I am not as fast to go online, and I appreciate how much everybody has been able to go online. I'll get there eventually, hopefully.
Yeah, that resistance has definitely moved for you, Kitty. I have seen it, so that's good. Yeah. More thoughts? Anything inspire? Emily?
In our group, there was a realization that very many retreat centers are still facing difficult decisions and painful realizations that things aren't going to work out the way that would be ideal, but that we need to keep a sense of gratitude in our hearts for what we do have and what is still possible.
Right. Thank you. Well, I know more was talked about in those small groups. What else inspired or connected?
And so, I'm new to this community, but I really appreciate everything that I've heard. I think that for me, the thing that comes out is just the reminder of abundance. I think that there are just so many decisions that need to be made, so many overwhelming things that kind of press in, but just a reminder of abundance and recognizing that the glass is always half empty as opposed half full rather than half empty, and recognizing that it's really living into those truths every day, and that we're not alone in this process. And so I appreciate being a part of this community, and I look forward to continuing the journey with all of you. And like Margarita, I do need to transition out a little earlier as well. So if I disappear a few minutes before, it's not because you've done anything. I just also needed to transition before another meeting at 3. So thank you for letting me be part of your conversation today.
Thank you. Phil.
One of the things I would say is, in the midst of challenge, a great sense of hope. I mean, I heard that in everyone's voices, both in the large group and the small group. And I think that comes from the realization that people need us, that there is a great need in terms of people seeking to encounter the holy and the divine. And, just that sense of people working so hard to make this work and to realize the important role that we do play in the lives of so many people and new people that we're encountering. I think that's one thing too, is that we're encountering new people and new ways to meet with people. I think was really just really wonderful to hear.
Great, thank you, Bill.
I really find myself wondering, I mean, given there's so much division in our world, and someone in our group was talking about, even wearing a mask is a political thing right now, which is just, I think, tragic. So there's so much division. I keep wondering about how, as retreat centers that cross geographic boundaries, that cross national boundaries, that cross religious boundaries, how is it we can make the resources that we offer into this world available to those who are our constituents? You know, and how can, it's not just for us, but people who are in our communities, how can we broaden their worlds and offer them opportunities that we're getting, so that it begins to ripple out into the world? And I find myself just holding those questions, and I love to explore that more as we move forward. What are the opportunities that really would help open up the fear-based world we live in?
Yeah, I also think that abundance, it's not wishful thinking. It's not like recognizing the uncertainty that we're in. It's finding that tension point, right? That balancing act that, I mean, I just find this time so quite interesting. I want to be very excited and hopeful, yet I hear stories of such grief, right? Or I want to be in a place of idea sharing and creative, yet not knowing if what's going to happen in the fall, right? I mean, it's just constantly this space of always walking that line, that tightrope. Yet, what I have found, and I can only speak for me, what I have found in abundance work is that how do we stay in abundance amongst all of that? And instead of the waiting of, well, let's just wait next month to see what's going to happen, right? Let's just wait and see. They're going to have a cure for this COVID by X date, right? So I find that abundance is how do you move into such a space as this and still feed the world that's looking to be fed by retreat centers. And then how do we do that as leaders of retreat centers to stay in that light, to stay in that abundance, because so many people are relying on you to do that.
One of the things I found myself reflecting on is that every new abundance also brings its new challenges. And sometimes I have to discipline myself to be in a place of positive, creative problem solving and response, even to the exciting opportunity. It's a question of personal discipline to do that, right? Or maybe it's also a question of real self-care to realize there are limits to the amount of creative energy and problem solving I can exude. And I've got to spend some time, consolidating new things, improving them, creating new systems, really bringing all those mundane administrative skills. That's a form of self-care as well as caring for people who are using those services. But there's so much, there's that balance between caring for the old and also giving the new the care it deserves is a big challenge for me.
Yeah, thank you for that. I don't mean to respond to everybody what they're saying, but what you just said, Tracy, really is, the pruning back, right? And the sense of sustaining that pruning of what we had to do is also, I think, abundance thinking. I think sometimes we think of abundance as scaling. And the last thing I know I want to do as Dominican Center is scale to this big level that's unsustainable. And that's not abundance. Abundance is really leaning into the gifts to see how the gifts and capacity inform us to move forward. So it's very different than scaling and making these big plans of doing. Yeah. Other thoughts? Anne, yeah.
I think one thought that just constantly keeps me steady is what I learned as a parent of adolescents. And that is nothing good happens if I worry about it between 2 o'clock and 5 a.m. That there just needs to be that space where I recognize it's not all me, it's not my work, it's not my center, it's time to roll over and go to sleep. So that has carried me through several times. And the other one is, there's a wonderful line in one of the somethings about, it came out of Compline, which is a night prayer. And the line was always, brethren, be sober, be watchful. For your adversary, the devil, goes about seeking someone to devour. So I think to recognize what are our temptations at this point. You know, the temptation to move out of abundance, the temptation to linger in fear, the temptation to overdo the what ifs. And to say, those are temptations. And what do you do with the temptation? Well, Jesus said, no, not that way, but this way. So I think it's going to sleep at 2 a.m., but it's also saying, be aware of the temptations and walk around them, not let them manage me.
Thank you, Anne.
Kitty, do you have your hand up again there?
What's that?
One of our temptations has been to linger in that fear of, if we open up again and someone gets sick on our campus, and then that gets out, that Stony Point Center is a place where people got sick. What does that mean for the rest of anything we want to do going forward? And so I think it's, you know, nervousness of people coming here, but it's also nervousness of us having them here. And right, you can't control it. I mean, we're allowed to have up to 25 people here, and we're trying to figure out how to do that. But just, we don't want to be known as one of those super spreader events, you know? I don't know. So, right, don't dwell in that. Okay, I won't. I'll try not to.
Yeah, well, Kitty was talking in our group that she paints, you know, so I could see her painting with fervor just to get it all out. I just want to see what you're painting. I really want to see what that looks like, because you're painting with such passion, just trying to get that out. And I love Anne's, you know, just roll over and go to sleep, for God's sake. And I just I think I need to take that. You know,
I'm painting
Jean's really
outsides
good.
of buildings. I'm not painting beautiful pictures of flowers. I'm painting outsides of buildings that haven't been painted
That's
in
really good.
decades.
Yeah.
Kitty, I'm with you. I think about, you know, first I thought about, well, the safety of the staff, and the safety of the group that's coming. But now I'm starting to think about the safety of the community in which we live, and inviting people into this community who come from across like state borders, where maybe it's a little worse than it is here. And all of that, I just hold all of that coming into play. And what's our responsibility around that? It's not, can we do it because we're allowed to have 25 people together? The question is, should we be doing it, even if we can't have 25 people together? And I think that's a question that we all hold. And one of the things that, as Margarita said, you meet one retreat center, you've met one retreat center. Each one is physically set up differently, that might have a better capacity or not so good of a capacity to do 25 people, right? So it's really a question, I think, for all of us.
Yeah, and in the midst of all of it, life continues, right? Life continues, and you can't control that. At the same time, trying to balance all that we're trying to do in these spaces. Okay. With that end, I'm going to share and let that Jean and the rest of you all take it. And stay in the light, as we say at Dominican Center, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Margarita.
Thanks, Margarita. Any other closing comments, thoughts?
Maureen? Well, you're muted, Maureen.
You're muted, Maureen.
I had an insight into the importance of how we reach out to the whole community, whether it's giving them zucchini at the local sale. We learned about the zucchini, but also having something that appeals to the whole community as opposed to the ones we've often served. So that was a good insight for me today.
I also really loved hearing about the 2 gardeners that we have here in this community. And we had both of them in our small group. So that was exciting for me. And I thought to myself, just, you know, summertime in Miami is not the time to plant a garden, but I did think to myself, in listening to the abundance of peas and zucchini, that what metaphorically is the garden that we're growing here right now? What are the things that I can really pay attention to that have maybe just started as little seeds in the things that have been shared in even here today, and how can I tend this garden with the staff that I am trying to keep employed here at the center. So we're gonna try to unpack that metaphor here at Morningstar. So thank you for your gardening.
Kitty, that'd be great to
I'm
hear.
sorry to jump in again. I just wanted clarity from Tracy from what you wrote in the chat about protocols. Are you, and guest illness, are you looking for protocols if someone gets sick at your center or halfway through their trip, or what? Clarify.
I'm mostly thinking here about, like, you know, I've got lots of thought through how to make it likely that they're coming from a place that doesn't have high rates of infection and all that stuff. It's just, what if they get sick here? And you know, I have staff saying, I feel very uncomfortable that you're asking other people to make judgments about how sick they are, and we all know that, you know, what we were using 2 months ago when we thought there were 3 symptoms, and now that we know that there's, it just really doesn't work anymore. So I'm a little stumbling over what to do. I'm inclined to say, drive home if you feel safe. But even that is like, what if they're fine when they leave and they end up having, you know, anyway, it's what Jean was saying, what are my responsibilities, and what do I have to accept that people come here also with taking a certain degree of risk and self-care.
Yeah, they're sharing the risk too. I don't think they're expecting you to take the whole risk, but they're showing up.
Right.
So, but back and forth, right. Yeah.
One of the things I've thought is just have everyone have an emergency contact who agrees to be the person to call them. Mm-hmm. You know, are you still okay? Do we need to call the emergency room? And, you know, things like that, even if they're not on campus, who's willing to do that kind of monitoring.
Tracy, is this a group that is coming in as a whole group, or are you bringing in people individually?
I'm getting ready to bring in people on personal retreat who will be self-contained. And the current proposal is that it would be no more than 3 pods that would combine, so that it's basically like families or family equivalents. So I think we can do them.
I wonder if it would be helpful, Ben and Justine, if we actually scheduled a meeting, because there are retreat centers that are beginning to open up. And if we had a meeting in 2 or 3 weeks, we would have, I think, a lot of learnings from those who have opened up. And maybe we could help run that meeting. And then those of us who haven't opened up could ask questions, and we could learn from each other and maybe share some of the protocols that we've developed.
Absolutely. I think, Tracy, as you asked that question, I'm drafting you an email from our last community call where we talked about reopening and renewing, and putting Paul's contact information in there along with a couple other. And I think it's time to revisit. So there's a call that was recently done on it. And as I'm hearing, there's so much more information unraveling and rolling, right? So I think that will be a continued thread, absolutely.
Well, and right now I have a 10-page Google Doc that tries to think through every single thing about how we might do that. I'd be glad to share it with people. I'm also looking for people that have their own Google Doc that we can inspire each other about. If you would, I'm going to put my email in the chat again. I'm just literally willing to just share you access to the Google Doc.
Before we close, maybe Ben or Justine could actually share a little bit of the resources and guide people again to the RCC website, the types of documents they'll find there.
I was just thinking that I would like to do that, so thank you, Jean, for mentioning. I'm sure many folks on the call here know this, but we have a coronavirus resources page on our website where we've been trying to do some of what Tracy's asking is kind of call the good stuff that people have found is useful for their own center and put it in a space where we can all get to it. So I can maybe actually just share my screen real quickly to show you that page. I've organized it a little bit by headers here. So just some basic outlines, funding and human resources related materials, physical space to virtual space, some hurdles that people are trying to get through as they do that, some scenario planning resources, and then at the bottom, and this is a little bit tough because the resources that were coming out in March are much different than the resources that are coming out now. So I'm trying to start putting in the dates here so you'll see when this stuff came out. So here's something from Massachusetts that came out in the beginning of June. That could be very different now, but I want to share that this state-by-state business reopening guidance from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, I just received that yesterday, that someone said this had been helpful to them. So there's a lot of links there that you can jump onto if you find those helpful.
Ben, do you have a place where you have documents? Because I know in the past we've talked about some
So
of
in the basics, there's a link to our Google Drive folder that does have documents that people have submitted. That includes some sample policies, sample protocols. Yep.
So that's not on the coronavirus page.
It is. It is. It's in the basics header. One of the little bullet points is our Google Drive folder, so you can get right to it. And that's open access for anyone to view.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are new, if you want to have a follow-up conversation with Ben or Justine, they'll be happy to have a conversation with you. Or and please check out the website. It's beautiful and talks about the RCC. And this is an open community. We're trying to grow this community. So invite people that you know to come and join us. We're all in this together. So we're almost to the end of our hour. We'll meet again in 2 weeks, and we'd love to see you here with others that you invite. And I thought this poem, one of the things that, how to get inspiration as we move through these days, I thought I'd close with one of my favorite poems by David White. And it's called Sweet Darkness, and I feel like we are in that type of time where it's hard to see the way ahead. So Sweet Darkness by David White. You must learn one thing. The world was made to be free in. Give up all other worlds except the one to which you belong. Sometimes it takes darkness and the sweet confinement of your aloneness to learn anything or anyone that does not bring you alive is too small for you. I hope these days that you find things that bring you alive and let go of things that are too small and live comfortably with others on this journey. Thanks for being here. It's great to meet you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Come back.
everybody. We'll see you in
Goodbye,
2
Take
weeks.
care.
Thank you all. Blessings.